Wanted to put together a quick little video to show you some dangerous situations when we're playing um, that mostly stem from an overload on one side or an open midfield. So here's a layout right here. We got a goalie, we've got two center backs, we've got the outside midfielders, a center midfielder, and a striker up top. That's the yellow team. They've got the ball, and this is a typical kind of formation that the other team will have as well. They'll first, this is just like a build-up play right here, and you're going to see all these players kind of shift the way that I think that they should shift, and I'll comment on that. So here we go. We got the first pass into the midfielder right here, and everybody shifts together. Notice that the outside midfielder is shifting towards the middle to cover this guy, which is great. At this point, they don't really have any kind of option. They could work the ball back, if they could try to work the ball back, or he could just try to dribble this center midfielder, which hopefully doesn't get by. Okay, so let's say he passes that over here, but now we've got this overload situation where there's this guy on the outside on the wing, and they've got the striker, and they've got this midfielder on our outside midfielder. So this outside midfielder has a choice right now because they're going to obviously play into this outside player. Right? So this outside midfielder can, if he wants, follow the pass out here, but he will be behind the play. So that'll give this player outside, even though it shows that he's going in front of it and stopping it, he'll be slightly behind the play. He'll have to catch up and hope that this outside player is not going to be too fast and beat him for pace. So that's one option. Now, let's say that instead of following over here, instead what happened is, you get to use your imagination here, instead of what happened was this outside midfielder stayed in the middle, and then that would force this center back to close down this player, or not close him down at all and just let him have possession outside. But let's say what happens if this guy would move out here, he would leave obviously the striker wide open. So the theme of this whole video is to show that once you leave a space, everybody else has to look around you and see where that space is and try to fill it if they can. So this player over here, the center back has to, if this center back goes over here, this center back has to come over and he has to mark this striker. So it would look something like this. All right. Also notice that this outside midfielder on the opposite side closes down the back side, the back post, because that's the space where the other center back had vacated to cover the space that the first center back had vacated. So it's just like filling in the holes, filling in the gaps. Now this is possible, like say that this is how it works. And notice that we're sitting back up with this kind of like 3-2-1 formation on defense. And I think that's a really stable kind of formation. It stops all kinds of attacks with two people in the middle, the outside midfielder staying in the middle right here, the center back kind of being the swinging gate going back and forth, and the outside midfielder on the opposite side kind of filling in as a back line. All right, so let's say if we had this is great because now they don't have anywhere to go. They can just go backwards. They can try to force it in here, but it's not likely. Our defenders, I trust our defenders enough to stop this kind of play, and we'll get the ball back. But let's say that they pass it back, and now we've got this great situation for us where we can easily knock this ball off of their defender, and then get a quick counterattack goal. But if they just say that they imagine that we can imagine that they play the ball around and they play through us. At this point, this player now has lots of space to dribble into. All right, so he dribbles into space. Notice how everybody shifts over to cover what they should be shifting. And this player over here, this is an error that we often have, and sometimes we find ourselves in a situation, is that this outside midfielder doesn't shift over. So it leaves us with this one center midfielder, and they're two to play off of each other. They're going to play a quick 1-2 if they want to. They can do whatever they want. So let's see what the next slide is. The next slide shows how they should have been shifted over. Okay, so if they are shifted over like this, then everything is good, and we're in the stable 3-2-1 position again, formation. All right, now let's suppose that instead of this player being so close to here and being able to shift over, let's say that this outside midfielder is way over here. All right, let's say and that this player actually picks up the ball even a little bit further into our own half. So let's say he's right there. This happens sometimes, and as a center back, I'm faced with this. I'm usually a little bit deeper. But at this point, it's this sort of horrible situation, this horrible decision. As a center back, what do you do? This guy over here can't leave his mark, because if he leaves it, then he's just going to be played around. If this center back comes up, he leaves a whole bunch of space in behind. So if this center back goes up, then that means this outside midfielder has to cover where the center back stepped up. So if he does that, if he steps up, this outside midfielder fills in that gap, makes sure that there's no through ball played behind him. That's how we got caught with our pants down with the guy at the back post last time, is that when I stepped up to cover this guy in midfield, there was this wide open player on the back post. Actually, I might not have even stepped all the way fully up. Maybe I was just looking around. The point is that if the center back steps up, everyone else has to be aware of where they are in that space. And notice that we're right here. We're back in this 3-2-1 position. It's a very stable position. And eventually we'll shift out of this again. We'll rotate where we are in this formation, I should say. Okay, so that just gives you a quick walkthrough of how we might shift if there's this open player in various parts of the field. Okay.